I'd like to invite Professor Tim to welcome more people to join on the platform, more panelists for the session on e-government for sustainable development, the road ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. We are catching up on time. We will move rapidly. Could I please invite Dr. Catherine Gitau, ICT Secretary, Directorate of E-Government, the ICT Authority of Kenya, to the platform. May I please invite the Honourable William Nyombe Tembo, Minister of State for ICT, Republic of Uganda, to the platform. Et maintenant, je voudrais que Monsieur l'Honorable Tassis Nkezabazi, Ministère des Télécommunications, Information et Communication, aux plateformes. Merci. Messieurs, Mesdames, ladies and gentlemen, my dear friend, the Honourable Minister, in his words said he is frustrated about people reinventing the wheel. Following that line, there is nothing worse than international organisations coming with their own ideas and trying to impose 53 different solutions to the governments across the world. The CTO believes passionately in working collaboratively together and in a joined-up way with other international organisations working in this very special field, the ways in which ICTs can support better governance. It is therefore a really enormous pleasure to be working so collaboratively with UNDISA and to have both Vincenzo and Elida participating in and contributing to this session. I would therefore like to invite Elida also to join us on the panel. This session is about exploring ways through which ICTs can indeed contribute to sustainable development. Both Vincenzo and Elida have emphasized they do not want this to be just a talking session. It is a discussion. It is a conversation, and we want input from as many people from the floor as possible. So I will say very little. One of the challenges of sitting up there with speakers being down here is they're not going to be able to see my yellow and red football cards. So I'm going to rely on you in the audience. When their time is up, or just before their time is up, I will wave a yellow card so you could just get them to point to that. But when I show the red card, please make sure they know that it is time to stop talking, because we do want that conversation. Without any more ado, I will just summarize the program. We will begin with a keynote address from Vincenzo. Elida will talk about the changing role and importance of e-governance in achieving the goals, and then there will be some brief interventions from each of the ministerial representatives and ministers, which are effectively about what do they think their great successes are and what are the challenges from the future. So I will retire up there. We will use I could actually just stay here, and then I could be much more controlling. And we will play musical chairs. So this is going to be an adventure, because as I invite somebody up, they will come down here, I will take their chair, and we will move around as we go. Ladies and gentlemen, will you join me in thanking Vincenzo Acquaro for being here and to present his keynote address.
Okay, it's there. It's put it there.
Is that working?
Yeah. No.
To the right.
Okay. Good morning. I will also use my timer, try to respect the time. My presentation is about e-government for sustainable development. I will start with a quick presentation on our flagship product, that is the e-government survey. The United Nations e-government survey is presents a systematic assessment of the use of ICT to transform and reform the public sector by enhancing efficiency, effectiveness, transparency, accountability, access to public services, and citizen participation in 193 countries. It is the only publication in the world that covers all member states. The e-government survey adopted by member states and economics as a useful tool to benchmark e-government development and is a tool to guide policies and strategies on how member states can overall improve public service delivery and bridge the digital divide. Why the survey is related to member states? It guides policies and strategies for innovative public administration and enabled by technologies. It serves as an incentive for government to build their capacity and promote e-government development within their countries. It shares knowledge and good practices. I said good practices, not best practices, to enhance governance and public services through e-government. And it helps draw attention from the media to issue of e-government development institution working with them. These are the mandate, General Assembly resolution and ECOSOC resolution related to our publication. And the last edition was published in 2014, is the 8th edition, United Nations E-Government Survey 2014, E-Government for the Future We Want. Who are the users for the survey? First, governments, intergovernmental institutions, international and regional organizations, academia, research centers and schools of public administration, private sector, civil society, citizens, and you have on the right some of the organizations that are using our raw data and our information on the survey. A few numbers. For the edition 2014, we had more than 1 million of downloads from our portal, and it's really one of the flagship of United Nations and the only one on the government. And this is also how we disseminated the survey. We had the national, international, global launch in New York, and then several regional, one in China, Republic of Korea, Bahrain. We also have a non-official version in Arabic, in Chinese, in Russian, and in Spanish. French is still missing. The survey, the publication is not only the only product we have, but we also have an open platform on our portal, UMPAN, and where you can get interactive government development database to view, sort, and print information and data set from all the edition of survey. So you can also make trends and compare results. Quickly about the methodology, how does the survey measure e-government? It's based on our index, E-Government Development Index, EGDI. It is a composite indicator measuring the willingness and capacity of public administration to use ICT to deliver public services. And is based on the three main indicators: Online Service Index, OSI, Telecommunication Infrastructure Index, TII, most of the data in index come from ITU, and Human Capital Indexes, HCI, most of the data and indicator come from UNESCO and UNDP. About the online service indexes, is based on independent online assessment and a questionnaire conducted by us, by DPADM. It measures the online presence of government and the services provided to citizens online. It is based on these 4 stages: emerging presence, enhanced, transitional, and the last one, connected presence. This is the structure of the questionnaire, the online questionnaire. As you see, is structured as a metadata format. We have, for 2014, we had 144 questions organized by 6 themes and the 4 stages that I mentioned before. And we also have a subset of subset of questions that are related to e-participation. And also we have e-participation index that is structured in 3 indices. One is the information, e-consultation, and e-decision making. Sorry, I went too fast. Okay. And these are the thematic areas for the 2014. It was e-participation, all of government, multi-channel service delivery, expanding usage, bridging the digital divide and vulnerable groups, and open government data. Sorry, it's this one. Let's share some fundings. In 2014, for the first time, all 193 member states had national websites. At the regional level, Europe continued to lead, followed by the Americas, Asia, Oceania, and Africa. Effective regional cooperation will help support change programs and advanced e-government development. About information, 104 countries provide achieved information about the 6 sectors assessed. For e-consultation, almost 50% of countries provide a facility for feedback regarding the improvement of their online services. E-decision making, 75 member states place their e-participation policy online, and almost 43% of United Nations member states today provide information about the CIOs for e-government. And 73 countries offered a one-stop shop portal in 2014. Between 2012 and 2014, the number of countries offering mobile application and mobile portals doubled to nearly 50 countries. Today, 118 countries use some form of social media. About digital divide, in 2014, 40% of national portals allowed for flexible font size, and 1.1 billion households worldwide are still not yet connected to internet, and only 46 countries have taken the next step and established dedicated portal for data sharing. This is about the ranking. This is the top 25, means the countries that have a very high GDI, means from 1 to 0.75. As you can see, Republic of Korea has retained the top spot in 2014 with its continued leadership and focus on e-government innovation. Then we have Australia, Singapore, and both increased considerably over the 2012. Europe is in the region leading the ranking with 16 countries in the top 25. Then USA and Canada lead Americas. And this is the regional average of the e-government development. As you can see, only Africa and Oceania are under the world average. Some trends lines of regional e-government development starting from 2003 to 2014. There remains a wide disparity among regions in their status of e-government development. Africa faces the greatest challenges. The less steep slope shows the slowest progression and underlines its lagging position. And this is the ranking about Africa. Tunisia climbed several places to the regional top and 75th global position despite the instabilities of the transitional period in the country. Mauritius and Seychelles remain in the region top 5. Only 6 top performing countries have EGDI value above the world median and are among the top 50 of the world. Just for explanation, this is a GDI, so it's based on the 3 components. There is a lot of improvement in terms of online indices, but unfortunately, the telecommunication infrastructure index and human capital is very low. And this is the reason why for the region worldwide is really low. And this is the trend lines sub-regional in e-government development for Africa. And the progress in Africa remains low and uneven. There has not been sufficiently significant progress in e-government development. This region remain below the world average. this is in comparison with all member states, so it's not some highlights for the region. The telecommunication sector has been an important driver of Africa economic growth in recent years. General trends in Africa seems to be inclined toward mobile government initiative and social media strategies. It is important to develop leadership for e-government and invest in capacity development for civil servant provision of public services. Given the fact that the majority of connectivity is taking place in the major capital cities across the continent, digital divide issues should be addressed by decision makers. E-government development can contribute toward the post-2015 development agenda. How? Strengthening national capabilities, regional and national network, and stronger voice of the people in global, regional, and local negotiation and policy making. Open government, social media are effective platform to facilitate knowledge sharing, skill development, and capacity building for sustainable development. Effective regional cooperation will help support change programs and advance e-government development. Addressing e-government challenges is often dependent on the national capacity for change and innovation. Governments across the globe need to undertake a process of transformative change. E-government should be seen as a holistic process to transform government and move forward an all of government and open government approach. The transformative challenges entails not only the design and implementation of innovative practices, but more fundamentally a transformation of government's role, function, institutional framework, and processes. In conclusion, building national and local capacity in a holistic and integrated manner is central to addressing the multifaceted, highly complex and interdependent challenges our society faces today. Data revolution can facilitate this innovative process. To improve e-government, the survey suggests countries establish a clear national vision supported by committed leadership, appropriate policies, and collaborative governance framework, such as all of government and open government, and greater investment in telecommunication infrastructure, especially mobile, and provision of services online. This is just the way we organize and we develop our survey. We have a consultative meeting with member states. For the new version for 2016, we already have 7 meetings with member states at regional level. Then we also had an expert group meeting in New York last week, and so this is the structure. After that, we established partnership with academia and universities and in UN system, and then we work for the data assessment and collection and drafting the publication. Quickly, because I still have not more than 3-4 minutes. So these are the consultative meetings that we held. One in Colombia, in Kazakhstan, in Bahrain, in Belgium, in Estonia, in Republic of Korea, in Morocco, and in New York. We had more than 110 member states attended. We also have our online platform to receive feedback from the member states that were not able to participate. And this is how an overall theme of 2016. The next edition of the survey will be e-government survey for sustainable development, and we would like also to have feedback from you to better represent the e-government in this new scenario. The overall theme, as I said, is e-government for sustainable development, and is based on the 3 pillars: the economic sustainability, social sustainability, and environmental sustainability. About the outcome document, Open Working Group of Sustainable Development Goals. As you know, post-2015 agenda highlights the critical role of good governance and effective institution in the context of sustainable development. And this is the roadmap starting from the conference in in Stockholm in 72, then Rio 92, Johannesburg 2002, and then the UN Conference on Sustainable Development in 2012. Currently, the UN is facilitating the global conversation of the post-2015 development agenda, and UN supported the broad consultation with major group of other civil society stakeholders. And these are the two core documents. One is the future we want, that is the outcome document of UN Conference on Sustainable Development, and it launched a process to develop a set of sustainable development goals that should address in a balanced way on the three dimensions. And then there is the synthesis report produced by the Secretary General, one universal and transformative framework for sustainable development, underpinned by rights and with people and the planet at the center. And these are the 17th goal proposed in this global consultation, and on the right you see the 17th grouped in 6 focal areas that are presented in the synthesis report. The last 2 minutes just to share with you some feedback received by member states on how can e-government contribute to advanced sustainable development. First of all, promoting good governance, enhancing trust between government and citizen, eliminating opportunities for corruption and fraud, improving transparency and accountability in government through open government data, increasing quality and efficiency of government by removing administration's burdens through all-of-government approach and process optimization, enhancing coordination across government agencies for better service delivery, empowering citizens to participate in decision-making, and fostering innovation in public sector through mobile services, open data, cloud computing. About fostering comprehensive, inclusive environment, friendly socioeconomic development, ensuring social equity and inclusion of vulnerable groups and service for people with disability and special needs, better health services and fair distribution of welfare via smart use of technology, also more effectiveness of investment into these sectors, extended public services and accessibility to rural or distant area using multi-channel approach and machine-to-machine transactions, creating new job opportunities by using open data, promoting green economy, green government by using green IT and cloud computing and paperless work, ensuring environmental sustainability through disaster prediction and risk management and reduction of unnecessary travel, both for citizen and government personnel, facilitating collaboration with public sector, NGOs, and people for co-creation and co-production on public service. The last 2 slides. What are countries' challenges in implementing the Government for Sustainable Development? Structural and leadership challenges, lack of trust in government, insufficient quality of governments and leadership, lack of public political will, leadership support and political engagement, corruption, lack of transparency, accountability, efficiency and effectiveness, lack of mechanisms for the coordination and investment in public administration to optimize resources, lack of statistics and the relevant mechanisms to monitor performance and assess the progress and impact, lack of sustained funding and budgetary limitation for e-government development, lack of legal framework, privacy and security, interoperability, open data, data quality and ownership, lack of political stability in some regions, and multilingualism in many countries. Last slide. Other challenges, organizational and cultural challenges, working in isolated silos, reluctance of governance officials to provide e-services and citizens to use them, obstacle in the mindset and the attitude, reluctance for sharing data, information and resources, lack of capacity and awareness in public sector and all population necessary to reap the potential benefit, lack of ICT expertise and personnel, obstacle on organizational level, delay in implementing the e-government initiative, aligning e-government program with the regional programs, limited use of social media to interact with the population, lack of sustainable capacity building programs. These were the challenges and all the inputs that member state provided during our informal consultation during these regional meetings. They don't cover all, but I think they could give also opportunity for a debate here. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much indeed for that valuable overview and insight. The technology always gets on top of one, bits fall around. Without more ado, I would like us to pass on to Elida Recci, who is the Public Administration and Governance Officer in the e-government branch of Endesa, who will be providing an introduction to some of the themes that we will now go on and discuss. So Elida, without any more ado, let me hand over to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I pick up from where Vincenzo left, practically on what are going to be the challenges. Okay. What we have noted, I've been having the pleasure to be the regional coordinator for Africa for over 7 years in our office. And I've had the pleasure to follow on the progress on e-government in the region, from the leapfrog of the infrastructural bottlenecks to mobile and to all the innovative applications throughout. 2 years ago, when we were directing the honorable audience in Uganda, we discussed the institutional models and the way how Africa was moving forward in tackling the challenges through different institutional frameworks and different legal frameworks. What we have noted due to technological development, institutional framework, and the new development agenda coming up for the world is that the national government sits at the intersection of it all. It is just you, at every level you sit, either in the public institution, the businesses, the civil society, that feel the differences that are being made when the choices are about technology, institutional setup, and making the whole process sustainable. My presentation is going to be quite brief. I don't know. Okay.
So just to the right.
And it's going to focus on what is the interrelationship between technologies, institution, and sustainable development. As Vincenzo mentioned, it is very important that when we talk about the e-government readiness, we go beyond technologies. We look at it as an enabler, but we look at the capacity of the institution to provide for their own people. We looked at the way how this can be a sustainable way, and the Minister of Rwanda clearly mentioned that is just the sustainability of services of infrastructure, but even more so the sustainability of institutions that rest at the core of the e-government readiness in the country. What I would like you to think through during the discussion, and I'm sure that the ministers and the representative of the countries in the region will have the chance to share, is what are the challenges when we look at the technological trends. We've seen a changing and challenging applications starting from cloud computing, social network, the high requirement for green IT, collaborative portals, unified communication. We're moving from the stage where we're building the databases to the stage where we are interacting the databases, interconnecting them, and bringing them open to the public via open government data, and elevating the status of the e-government via open governance approaches. What are going to be the 4 major generational scales that we are looking at the technological scale? Is delivery platforms. We're shifting. We're going from the mobility to the cloud to social platforms. We're looking at the communication and collaboration channels that are being reinvented. Initially, we used to talk about the way how the the invention of the Web 2 changed the way how the e-government operates. But now we are looking to something more, which is going to be the Web of Things, where we look more to the co-creation and co-production of the content, policies, legislation, and everything else. We're looking at the data that is being open and is exploding the proliferation application, as well as blurring the lines between the interaction of the social stakeholders. We don't see the civil society at the traditional setting where they would mainly interact with the public officials and the government at the time of the policy design. Due to the open government data, their role is taking place from the policy design to the policy implementation. We're seeing an explosion of devices, sensors that organizations are deploying or they are connected to. We see it throughout the world, no matter level of development. The Minister of Rwanda clearly mentioned you can have the IT included in the trash bins. You can have IT in the watch. You can have the IT measuring your health. So these are the challenges that the government are facing on a daily basis. But for that, we need the institution to bring it at the scale where the whole society can gain out of the technological revolution, and the whole world can bring development in a more sustainable way, approach. For that, we need the new institutional framework for 21st centuries that would be politically empowered, financially enabled, technically enriched, and human capacity prepared. And what we need is we need the integration of these priorities of each separate institution. As Vincenzo mentioned, we've noted that many institutions work in silos. We need that interconnectivity, not only throughout the institution, but also throughout the priorities, to form what we call the national priorities, the regional one, to reach what the UN works very hard towards the global sustainable goals. For that one, we need coordination amongst and through e-government components. We need, we've noted when we look at the institutional framework models, and I'll go to that a little bit later, we look at different approaches that are taken, but the coordination is the key word. And we need to look at the alignment of institutional architecture and capabilities. The four models that are currently implemented throughout the world are based on the Ministries of ICT and Science, on the Ministries of Finance, Treasury, when we look at the policy and investment coordination, or administrative coordination, which rests more with public administration. And they are institutions that practically share no communication. There might be government offices in every ministry of line. All these policy models are fully implemented in Africa, in different countries. And what we've noted is that each of the models reflects a different stage and a different challenge in their e-government road. The Ministries of ICT, Science and Technology are mainly for the countries that are dealing with infrastructure issues, but also with the application and public services online. The policy and investment coordination belong to countries that have more of a whole government approach, like Korea, US, UK, and it's something that is being implemented in Africa, but at a very slow rate. And administrative coordination, we've seen that in South Africa, in Tanzania, and a few other countries, is where you see that the public service delivery online is being coordinated with the Ministry of ICT through the infrastructure and the Ministry of Public Administration, wherever it is. We also see that there's not only a policy model that takes place when we look at institutional settings in every country, is as well the role of what we call alternative models. We have at the same time regulatory agencies that combine centralized government with decentralized implementation, but usually they lack executive authority. I would like to come to the main focus of the discussion of this panel. What are the main challenges that the e-leaders are facing? And we're lucky to have in the panel 4 e-leaders from the region that would share their national experience, their regional cooperation on the e-government mentor. How they focusing the strengthening their e-government institution to enable them to look more towards development, how they are increasing their responsibilities and cooperation with the private sector through public-private partnership, how they are making technological solution and how they are ensuring that the cooperation of all is ensured to reach to the Sustainable Development Goals, where challenges are common. However, as Tim mentioned, there will be a national response that will best reflect the national priorities and challenges. To be able, as the Secretary General of the United Nations and all the representatives of the country would like to see a world where no one is left behind. And in terms of technology, that might mean a laptop for a child, that might mean hundreds of initiatives that are exploding throughout, to transform economies for jobs and inclusive growth, to build peace and effective openness and accountable institution, and for a global partnership. And what is the road ahead? They are technologies that are evolving. They are institutional frameworks that need to show flexibility and adopt public policy to give the best use of technologies. And the world is moving toward a more sustainable development path agreed by most of the member countries. Our initial findings are that countries across the world and in Africa have adopted different models of e-governance, as I mentioned, all of which have advantages and disadvantages. However, the e-governance requires the contribution of all societies. Therefore, means of cooperation should be explored. We suggest and advise that means of cooperation should be explored with all groups, including business sector, academia, civil society, and this forum aims to do all of this. And in ever-changing and challenging development priorities coupled with technological innovation would require such institutions to be flexible. I'd like to thank you and leave few guidance for the panel to pick up and continue the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Alida, for setting the scene. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished colleagues, I feel almost like we're going to have a session of musical chairs now. But the way in which the process will operate is we will invite in a moment our four distinguished ministers and ministerial representatives to the panel to reflect a little bit on their own experiences, to reflect on what has gone well in terms of e-governance in their countries, but also in this atmosphere of openness, what are the challenges that they as ministers feel they still face. And then we will move in, and those will be about 5 minutes each. Well, at least I'll put the yellow card up at 5 minutes, but I would never cross a minister, so we will have the red card a little bit later. Then we will turn to these three questions. Because those questions aren't there, we're going to have the ministers up here, the questions there. We will invite them to make some comments and feedback, but we really do want your contributions to this discussion. And I will close at 1:45, so we'll catch up, but we'll only be running 15 to 20 minutes late then, and we will then move to the photograph. So without any more ado, could I invite Catherine Getao, the Honourable William Nyombi Tembo, the Honourable Tarsis Nkezabahazihi, and the Honourable Jean-Philbert Nsenjamana up to the platform. Thank you very much indeed. And one of the things we like to do while they're coming up in the CTO is try and make sure we have a better balance of women in our panels. And the best we've ever done was our annual forum in Nigeria, when we had 40% of speakers being women. So I hope that the gentlemen on the panel will permit me to ask Catherine to be the first. I know this may not be the right order of protocol, but I know them well enough to know that they will not mind. So please may I introduce very briefly Catherine. Since I think it was August 2013, she's been driving forward very much the formation of the newly created ICT Authority. Before that, she was ICT Secretary in charge of the E-Government Directorate, and as the Honourable Minister from Rwanda has already indicated, she was Director of the School of Computing and Informatics at the University of Nairobi between 2001 and 2007. So it's a real privilege to have her with us. She has many Commonwealth connections as well, being a Commonwealth Research Fellow way back in 2005. And so she's really one of the women in Africa who has played a leading role in driving forward their national policies. So Catherine, could I invite you, and hopefully the microphones will work there, to share with us about 5 minutes on what you feel Kenya's major achievements have been, but also the challenges that you would like us to address here, the challenges that you still face. Is the microphone working? No. It should be working if you just have it at the side. Can we just check them? Can we have some technical assistance here, please?
Okay, thanks. Yes, it is working.
I think if you just sit back, it ought to be loud.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, distinguished chair, fellow panelists, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure and a privilege to be here at the CTO Forum to talk about issues that are very pertinent and very close to the heart of Kenya as a country and the whole region. I think I speak for the whole region when I say we see e-government as one of the ways in which we can deliver to our citizens. Now, what has Kenya done? We've spent quite some time planning, and I believe that as in a leader's presentation, she showed the complexity of the making e-government work, and therefore I believe that good plans will form a very good basis for actions that will be sustainable and effective. So, as you know, last year we launched the Smart Kenya Master Plan. We launched the broadband strategy about a year before that. We also launched the cybersecurity plan and a number of other plans. But we don't want to leave those plans on paper, so I will be sharing what we've done. Now, if we think of the Smart Kenya Master Plan in particular, it focuses on 3 foundational issues. That is the infrastructure, because as we know, you cannot deliver e-government or technology to the people unless you have a broadband infrastructure that penetrates to the furthest reaches of our country. And of course, Kenya is not the biggest East African country, but it is a big country, about, I think, 3 times the size of the UK. So providing that infrastructure is neither cheap nor easy. So far, we've done almost 6,000 kilometers of fiber. We've reached the majority of our counties. As you know, Kenya in 2013 was devolved into 47 counties, and therefore it is our intention to make sure that at least the headquarters and eventually also the sub-county headquarters are reached by broadband infrastructure. Of course, our private sector has been helpful in that effort, and the 3G network, I think, is penetrating about 80% of the country at the moment. So our counties are able to choose from what the public sector is doing, but they're also being assisted by the private sector. There's also the issue of the infrastructure, because what do we deliver over this network? It is information and applications and voice communications, of course. Kenya has a long history of registering, and we register persons. Of course, we've been registering persons since 1911, while we're still a British protectorate. That was made electronic in 1978, and right now we're rapidly moving to a master data management framework for handling our data about persons. And this is very important for the delivery of many applications, those that have to do with immigration. As you know, now in East Africa, I can travel to Rwanda quite easily. I can leave my passport at home and travel with my national ID card in the East African region. But the security of such freedom rests on good registration of persons. And there are other things that need to be registered: land, companies and institutions, and vehicles, and even livestock, and all the elements of our national resources and wealth. And this also forms, apart from making it easy for us to secure our resources and make use of them, with open data philosophy, it also makes it easy for enterprises to be built on top of this data. Last but not least, of course, is the issue of human capacity, which is very important for us. We now have 55 universities that are offering some kind of IT degree. Behind this, one of the challenges has been how fast people are moving. Yes, I'm aware. I can see you, Tim. So we need to ensure that this human capacity, this infrastructure, and this infrastructure are properly governed so that we have an integrated approach to building our applications in such a way that we do not waste time, money, and human capacity. On top of this, of course, we have a lot of public services. I'm sure most of you have seen e-citizen portal. Most of you will have heard of the Huduma centers, which I think are now, will be 46 by January, offering integrated public service delivery. You've heard of our open data portal, and I could give many other examples if Tim would allow. But I think he will not. Now, if I just rapidly jump to the issue of challenges, I think despite all these exciting developments, it is true that we still have people living a 19th century lifestyle, we have people living a 20th century lifestyle, and we have people living a 21st century lifestyle simultaneously in the same country. And our Constitution requires us to meet the needs of all those people. So we can talk about smart government and e-government and be very excited about it, but often it is really meeting the needs of the 20th and the 21st century lifestyles and not those living a 19th century lifestyle. In Kenya, we know that 3/4 of our citizens, including those leading a 19th century lifestyle, have mobile phones. And last year we were told that half of those phones are now smartphones. That's an opportunity. We're told that 80% of Kenyan adults regularly transact using mobile money. That's an opportunity. We have more than 5 million Kenyans who are regularly using social media platforms. That's an opportunity. But we also recognize that unemployment is high and broadband connectivity is high. So those are challenges. Well, what's the challenge I would throw to my own government and myself? I'd say we use the opportunities I've described to transform education and training. And if somebody has time, I can give a lecture on this, but I won't, Tim. Secondly, we implement what I call mixed commerce. Yeah, so it's a mixture of e-commerce and regular commerce. Yeah, just as I believe one of the reasons why mobile money is very successful in Kenya is that it is completely integrated with our cash-based society. So I'm not saying go E 100%, but use E to make efficient and better what people are already using, including our 19th century population. And this, in the same way, mixed delivery of social services. And finally, to foster positive, use E to foster positive communication between citizens and government. I saw in Vincenzo's presentation something that said attitude is everything. Yeah, increasingly social media, TV, radio, because in Kenya, I think, and in many of your countries too, people call back all the time. They vote during news to give their opinions, but it tends to have a rather negative thrust. Yeah. But I think we can use the same thing, social media, radio, TV, whatever, to create a very positive dialogue between citizens and government, and to ensure that we have positive and sustainable development. And I'll stop there, Tim.
Thank you very much. Lots of things in that. One that really strikes my heart is that in my country, the UK, we still have 17% of households unconnected to the internet, and yet our government is moving to digital by default. That marginalises those 17% unless they're connected. So that really resonates with your 19th, 20th and 21st century. Without any more ado, let us please move on to the Honourable William Niombi Tembo, who is Minister of State for ICT in the Republic of Uganda. He has been a Minister of State for 12 years, and in the conversation beforehand we were remarking on ministers of ICT often tend to move and transfer very, very quickly, but he has been Minister of State underlying many of the changes that have taken place in Uganda for much longer and for 4 years. He's a dear friend of the CTO and a leading figure in the East African community. So, Honourable Minister, could we have sort of 5 minutes reflections from you, a couple of things that have gone well, but the challenges you really face at the present? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. First observation I have to make that there is no shortcut. Our people have tested the power of ICT, and they will continue to demand more. And the onus is on us, especially governments, to ensure that we fill the gap of that need. They will continue to demand more usage of ICTs, and we know that when you increase on the usage of ICTs, you bring the citizenry closer to government. That mutual suspicion that always exists between the state and the citizenry, the gap is a bit narrowed. So there's no shortcut. We have to continue seeing that we increase the usage of ICT to our people in order to improve on accountability and transparency. With the case of Uganda, colleagues, we've tried to do the basics. So far, we've done the foundational issues pertaining to institutional framework and legal, regulatory policy framework, and of course infrastructure. When it comes to infrastructure and connectivity, we've just concluded an e-government infrastructure project which has so far connected about 27 ministries, departments and agencies with about 1,600 kilometers of optic fiber. But of course, connectivity is still a very big challenge. It's one thing to talk about connecting government, having fiber of X kilometers in length, but what we are finding out is that last mile connectivity is a big issue. It needs a lot of resources, a lot of commitment from government. That's what we are looking at. Concerning the institutional framework, we've put up a National Information Technology Authority, which will be at the center of pushing the e-government agenda. And you have, last year, we launched our e-government master plan. Like the professor said, we think that the planning aspect, we have to get it right. When you get it wrong at that stage, when the quality on entry is wrong, then be rest assured that whatever will follow, you will not do what you're supposed to do. So we've really put a lot of resources on planning, and we have launched our master plan for e-government, which now has given us the activities, costed the activities, the sequencing, and we think in the next 7 years, we should be reasonably, not my word, we should be reasonably connected. I know it's not easy. And again, I think ICT cannot live in isolation. Because when you look at the resources that we need, there are other issues which you must do before even you think of issues that are directly connected to ICT. Issues like energy and power distribution are very, very important. Issues like education are very, very important. Issues like poverty issues. The professor was talking about because we see where the technology is going, that most of this service probably will be delivered over mobile platforms. But when you look at the income levels of our people, you wonder how many people are able to purchase these smart phones. So the issue of poverty eradication comes in, issues of energy and power distribution come in handy, issues of education and literacy come in handy. So when you look at all those, then you find out that the budgetary architecture, the budget you have may not be enough to drive the ICT agenda at the speed you would have wanted to drive it at, given the other challenges on the resources. However, all that said, sir, I think we are doing the foundational issues. We had a very, very big gap in the country. That's the identification of people. In Uganda, we haven't been having a national identity card. I talk with that with a very sullen sort of smile because we haven't had the national identity card since independence. So we're just having one. It has been a very big project costing more than $200 million, but I'm happy to inform colleagues and friends that we've started issuing a national identity card. We've been able to register all our people between the ages 16 and above. All of them by September this year will be issued by a national identity card. And we feel online services, the identification of a citizen is a key component of running online services. So we've done that. We've done issue on infrastructure. We are strengthening the NITA-U. We are looking at the legal framework, e-transaction laws, the regulatory environment. We are looking at it to see that it is supportive to the private sector. At the same time, government also, we've just also completed our strategic investment plan for the telecommunication sector, which will help us to look for resources to push our ICT agenda. So all in all, we are doing the basics, and we feel we are doing the right thing, and we committed to make sure that at the planning stage, we shouldn't go wrong. We should do everything perfectly so that all the activity that follow will be done effectively. Of course, challenges are there. Of course, I want to attract a red card. Challenges are there. High cost of bandwidth cost is a big challenge, budgetary resources, and the rest. But we are moving on. We are sure, for the case of Uganda, in the next 7 years, we should be reasonably connected. And when we get time, I can define for you what I mean by that reasonable connectivity.
Thank you very much indeed. You've reminded us of the crucial importance of infrastructure, electricity and energy, which is a real challenge still in many parts of the world, but also the importance of education and having a population who knows how to engage. On the bright side, your mention of smartphones, it is incredible now to see the prices of smartphones coming down to the order of $25 a phone. And I think this could indeed be a game changer when many, many more people can actually engage with the internet through such devices. And if I could be a little challenging, I prefer the use of the word first mile to last mile, because it puts the emphasis on actually reaching the poorest and the most marginalized. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to raise that. Let us, ladies and gentlemen, move on to our next very, very distinguished speaker. the Honourable Tarsis Nkeza Bahizi, who is Minister of Telecommunications, ICT and Relations with Parliament in the Republic of Burundi. He has an incredibly distinguished career behind him. In 1998, he joined the peace process in Burundi as a facilitator. He's had many roles in government, being Deputy Head of Cabinet at the First Vice President of the Republic, Senior Advisor in charge of political and diplomatic issues. He has worked closely with international organizations in capacity building and organization. And it is very good, therefore, that he is now the Minister. Monsieur le Ministre.
Je vous remercie, Monsieur le professeur Tim. Je voudrais d'abord présenter mes excuses parce que je vais faire ma présentation en français, because my English is not good. Excellence, Monsieur le ministre et chers collègues du Rwanda, ministre de la Jeunesse et des TIC, chers collègues de l'Ouganda, Mesdames, Messieurs, qui avaient participé, qui avaient bien accepté de participer à ce forum, tout protocole observé. C'est pour moi un plaisir de pouvoir participer à ce forum et je remercie sincèrement mon collègue du Rwanda qui a collaboré avec l'Organisation des télécommunications du Commonwealth pour que nous puissions participer à ce forum. Je ne me suis pas fait accompagner par un collaborateur comme les ministres aiment le faire pour des raisons indépendantes de ma volonté, mais je vais le faire la prochaine fois. Le thème, je pense, si j'essaie de traduire correctement, il s'agit d'une meilleure gouvernance à travers une administration connectée. Et la question qui nous est posée est comment les gouvernements peuvent renforcer la responsabilité ou le devoir de rendre compte aux citoyens à travers l'usage des TIC et comment ils peuvent les engager ces citoyens-là dans la mise en œuvre des politiques relatives. D'abord, au niveau général, au niveau politique général, il faut, à notre avis, que les gouvernements soient conscients de la promotion des technologies de l'information et de la communication comme facteur de développement socio-économique, mais aussi puissent adopter des stratégies globales et plus cohérente. Le Burundi a déjà élaboré un plan d'action à ce niveau et qui est en train d'être réactualisé, mais aussi s'implique dans la diffusion et l'usage des TIC à travers des actions que nous qualifions de nouvelles. Voilà au niveau général, mais aussi au niveau spécifique. Il s'est agi pour notre pays d'adopter les technologies de l'information et de la communication comme mode de délivrance, de mise à disposition, si vous voulez, des services TIC aux citoyens, notamment à travers la gestion transparente des budgets en utilisant les technologies de l'information et de la communication, mais aussi en donnant accès au plus grand nombre de citoyens, les services TIC à travers les systèmes qu'il faut mettre en place. Et là, nous pensons spécialement à la mise en place d'un système de communication du gouvernement. Et à ce propos, les pouvoirs publics, le gouvernement a adopté, ont permis l'accès Internet, les pouvoirs publics ont accès Internet pour un certain nombre d'années, je pense avec l'appui de nos partenaires. Nous avons des opportunités d'accéder à cela pour une période de 10 ans de façon gratuite, mais aussi en mettant en place un système, plutôt un centre national des données, une carte nationale d'identité avec une gestion optimale et automatisée pour son suivi et son adoption. Nous avons aussi mis en place un système de gestion des finances publiques qui est déjà opérationnel, mais aussi un système de gestion des ressources humaines de l'État. Ce système est en cours d'implémentation et le ministère qui est en charge de cela, c'est le ministère de la fonction publique, qui est le ministère pilote, qui est en train de négocier avec les autres ministères pour la faisabilité technique et financière en vue de mettre de manière effective en place ce système de gestion des ressources humaines. Je pourrais citer peut-être d'autres systèmes, mais je voudrais m'en arrêter là. En d'autres termes, je pense que tout tourne autour de l'adoption de l'administration en ligne. On peut également introduire des systèmes de gestion automatique du budget, ce qui permettrait la lutte contre la corruption. C'est-à-dire que le citoyen devra accéder aux services à travers l'outil TIC électronique et informatique. Et je pense que cela va réduire sensiblement les risques de corruption car ça diminue le contact entre celui qui délivre ces services et celui qui les demande. Donc, et à ce niveau, je pense qu'on est sur la bonne voie. Et au niveau pratique, j'ai dit au niveau spécifique, mais aussi au niveau pratique, il y a lieu de signaler que plusieurs actions sont mises en avant. Je commencerai d'abord par dire qu'on a privilégié le déploiement du réseau haut débit à travers la fibre optique, la dorsale nationale d'abord, qui relie toutes les provinces du pays et une grande partie des communes, mais aussi qui relie le Burundi au reste du monde, mais aussi la fibre optique, l'installation de la fibre optique métropolitaine au niveau de la ville de Bujumbura, mais aussi qui va être étendue à d'autres villes du pays d'ici peu. Deuxièmement, on est occupé à déployer un certain nombre d'outils informatiques, comme le système d'information bancaire à la Banque centrale, la Banque de la République du Burundi, mais aussi le guichet unique électronique à l'Office burundais des recettes. Là, c'est pour la collecte des impôts, plutôt des recettes. Le système de décentralisation pour le système de paye à la fonction publique. Nous avons aussi le système d'informatisation pour la biométrisation des cartes nationales d'identité. C'est un projet qui est en cours, mais aussi nous sommes en train de mettre en place des campus numériques au niveau du ministère de l'enseignement supérieur et de la recherche scientifique. Nous avons aussi l'ambition, et le projet a commencé, de mettre en place une version d'un système intégré des finances publiques au niveau du ministère des Finances et un système de téléconférence dans le même ministère. C'est encore un projet. Et d'autres projets à réaliser, notamment au niveau des ministères des télécommunications, de l'agriculture, etc. Tout cela pour faciliter l'accès aux services en faveur des citoyens, en vue d'améliorer la gestion de sa vie au quotidien. Je ne voudrais pas oublier aussi la mise sur pied d'un cadre légal et réglementaire, mais aussi institutionnel, favorisant pour la promotion et le développement des technologies de l'information et de la communication, étant entendu que c'est devenu un grand moteur du développement. Voilà ce qui est fait, mais aussi nous avons besoin de bénéficier de l'expérience des autres pays et je me réjouis d'avoir été invité dans son forum où nous avons la chance, comme professeur Tim l'a dit, de participer aux échanges à propos des meilleures pratiques et dans quelle mesure il faut les appliquer. Encore une fois, j'ai vu que je risque de découper la carte rouge, je m'excuse. Je voudrais encore une fois saluer les organisateurs de ce forum, mais aussi remercier vivement mes collègues, tous mes collègues, mais aussi le ministre du Rwanda. Le Rwanda qui arrive à un niveau assez avancé dans le développement des TIC sous la clairvoyance et le dynamisme de son Excellence le président Paul Kagame. Et je pense que le Burundi a quelque chose à apprendre de ce développement. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Ministre. Je regrette que j'avais utilisé la carte rouge. Ladies and gentlemen, many interesting insights there. Let me just capture, for those of you who are not fluent in French, some of the key points of the Minister's deliberations. I think it began by making a particular emphasis of the importance at a general political level of promoting ICTs for service in terms of economic development, and the need for a global strategy that has a clear action plan that can be taken forward. And then he focused more on some of the specifics, emphasizing the need for ICTs as a mode of delivery to provide services to citizens. Throughout his presentation, he emphasized the importance of a government being responsive to the needs of citizens. And therefore, people have to know how to use the technology. And he paid particular attention in terms of the services that the government of Burundi have offered in terms of ensuring that the documentation of the government and government processes are enabled for citizens' access. He mentioned the importance of identity cards and the use of ICTs to bring in biometric identity. And he placed also particular emphasis on the significance of financial management. As previous speakers have noted, to ensure that this is delivered across the country, it is important to get connectivity to as many people as possible. And in conclusion, he again reiterated some of the issues around the financial ways through which technology can be used, particularly for taxation purposes, to pay public servants and to ensure that there is good management of public finances. I hope I've captured some of what you said, but there was much more richness in there, and in view of the time, and we would like to have conversations from everybody on the floor. I would like now to turn to our host, the very distinguished Honourable Minister Jean-Philbert Nsengimana, to see if he would like to add some more about some of the successes of your country and some of the challenges you feel you still face.
Thank you, Tim. Again, good morning, everyone. I'm really tempted to follow suit and talk you through some of the achievements that we've registered. But when I listen to my friend Tembo and my friend Tarsis, there is nothing, absolutely nothing that they mentioned that they are either doing or have completed that we haven't gone through. We are really all following, I think, the same path in our development of ICTs, and I will really spare you of some of those details. I just want to mention, probably, if I talk about some of the progress in the infrastructure over the last 10 to 15 years, being able to cover the whole country with the terrain that you have seen, and being able to extend connectivity, 2-3G connectivity to more than 99% of our population. I think it has been a tremendous progress. Now we are on for 4G LTE, and we are aiming at covering 95% by 2017. And all that is based on the last mile, which is fiber optic, because now first mile is the 4G LTE, as you just corrected us. I think it's very important. So that connectivity has really allowed a number of innovation and services that have transformed completely lives of people in this country. So whether you talk about taxation, public financial management, public sector human resources management, whether we talk about facilitating travel, travel documents issuing. I hope some of you have benefited from that seamless experience of coming to Rwanda. All those really have happened, and if you go to health, agriculture, you find really the impact of ICT has been felt. In fact, we are coming rapidly to a position where people don't realize that they are already in the digital lifestyle. It's ICTs are so mainstream in people's lives, you forget it is there. It is becoming like a utility. You don't notice unless it gets cut. That's why you realize actually that you are dependent 100% on IT. Nobody realized that this room has a good light unless there is a power cut. That's why we realize really that electricity is critical. So we are really pushing, I think the next level is to make sure that ICTs become part and parcel of everyone, and we embark on a complete digital lifestyle everywhere. So, challenges. I think there are challenges as everywhere. Professor Catherine talked about the challenges in terms of energy, challenges in terms of literacy, challenge in terms of infrastructure. We all share those challenges. And I think for us, the biggest challenge is having started from a very, very low base. Whether you talk about electricity penetration levels, which were almost non-existent in 2000, and we are driving at 70% household access to electricity by 2018. Whether you talk about literacy, especially digital literacy. When you talk about people's incomes, affordability is very important. So we are really starting very, very low. But the good news is looking at the speed at which things are moving. When I saw in the report presentation how Africa was trying to catch up, I was really not happy, because not only we are far behind, but also we are growing the slowest. It's really not a situation that we should tolerate. So I was telling my friend, minister from Burundi, that on that GDI index, Rwanda was able to move 12 positions from 2012 to 2014. And I think the next report is 2016. So, and we are at 125. I told my colleague that we need to jump at least 25 positions, as Rwanda, in the next report. Now, he says with Burundi, I'm sure with our colleagues, so the proposition I'm putting to you from the UN is to the workshop that we've been planning to do together in the month of May. Why don't we make it a regional workshop? Let's come together, for instance, as Northern Corridor. We have now Burundi on board in the Northern Corridor. We have Uganda, Kenya, South Sudan, to really look at these issues collectively. And we've been quite successful when we tackle some of these issues together as opposed to doing it alone. And an example has been the very successful launch of One Area Network, which is an example of cross-border infrastructure. So we are really moving into a broader kind of thinking, cross-border and regional integration thinking. It's something that I actually wanted to also talk about and extend an open invitation to all of you, especially coming from this region, to really join us and tackle these issues together, whether it is access to power, access to devices, and really do these policies together. And I'm happy to say that we are already developing a regional broadband strategy that is going to address all those issues. So I'm tempted to stop here, but I'd like to recognize some of the people in this audience, and I think I might be the only one to recognize them. We have a Member of Parliament, Honorable Gaston. Thanks for coming and joining us. We have the Director General of our National Science Technology Commission, who's there and who's also my predecessor, Thank you very much for coming, Dr. Inyas. We've been joined by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Local Government. And I always have good conversations with the people in the governance fair that this e-government thing is more about governance than E. Even governance is longer than E. So I'm very happy to be joined by the people from the Ministry of Local Government and also our Rwanda Governance Board, really to be the ones driving this agenda. And for us, we'll be behind fixing the bolts and nuts and making sure that everything runs smoothly, but also innovating and co-creating together. We are very much into that mindset as well. So all this progress of infrastructure has been also achieved nationally because of a very efficient regulatory authority. We have the Director General of the Regulatory Authority, Mr. Patrick. Welcome very much. But also the regional regulator. I can see the IACO Secretary General, Mr. Hodise Makula. We recognize your presence in the House. And others. Now, the danger is when you start dropping names, there is no end to it. So, once again, let me welcome and thank every participant here for having come and joined us this morning. And I really look forward to a very exciting 2 days ahead.
Thank you very much indeed, Honourable Minister Nsengimana. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm now going to have between 15 and 20 minutes when we're, as a group, going to address those questions. So could I invite Vincenzo and Alida to join us on the panel in case there are issues that need to be discussed further. While they're coming up, just a couple of observations. Absolutely, your point about tackling this together, I think, is critically important. And that is why the CTO is working collaboratively across the Commonwealth to try and bring shared practices that people can adopt and explore. But one of the items, again, that Alida had shown and Vincenzo, that ICTs are actually leading to greater inequalities in our societies. Some of you have heard me say that before. But if Africa is at the bottom and is growing slowest, that means the differences between Africa and the rest of the world are getting bigger. And that isn't only Africa, it's some of the small island states of the Commonwealth as well. So to me, that is one of our biggest challenges. And it's a kind of tension. We're trying to use ICTs to catch up. And yet some of the richer countries of the world are using the next generation of technologies to move even further ahead. This is mainly an African gathering, but I do want to have some engagement and some ideas from our African brothers and sisters as to actually how we can begin to change that. Because the CTO is fundamentally committed, above all else, to ensure that ICTs are used to serve the interests of the poorest and the most marginalized, those living in the first mile. So let us spend about 5 minutes on each of these critical questions. And I would like some feedback now. It is your turn from the audience. We've heard ministerial perspectives, and I'm sure they will want to come back and contribute as well if we have time. But how technologically ready are we? Let's be brutally honest. The question's there. The challenges of technological adaptation. What drives the choice of technologies in the public sector? How can Africa continue to leapfrog? Ladies and gentlemen, Africa is not leapfrogging. That is a myth. We've just seen it. We've just heard it. So, in terms of technological readiness, how ready are we? Some thoughts and contributions. I think there is a roving mic. Robert? The roving mic at the back. I would like the person holding the mic to run. Africa's very fast, cheetah pole vaulting people have used about ICTs rather than leapfrogging, but those who want to contribute on technological readiness, how ready are we, what needs to be done? If you stand up, a microphone will come, introduce yourself, and please keep your interventions just to about a minute. Who wants to contribute?
But how do you disagree with the moderator? I think Africa is actually leapfrogging, on 2 fronts at least. I wanted to talk about the financial inclusion. We have leapfrogged. Do you agree with that?
Yep.
Okay, I'll stop there.
Or not necessarily leapfrog, you've led the world. There wasn't mobile financial services.
You talked about the mobile revolution.
Yeah.
I think we have leapfrogged this fixed infrastructure.
Yeah.
But since it's a composite index, and I think Elida explained why we are not leapfrogging, because the infrastructure and skills buckets, and they account for 60% in that index.
Yep.
They are, 66%. They are still really holding us down. Yeah, we cannot leapfrog, and I agree with you that we want to jump, but then those things keep pulling us down.
As the Minister knows, I like to be provocative to get some engagement. So other thoughts on technological readiness, please. Yes, Robert.
My name is Robert Akello. I teach at Multimedia University of Kenya, in Kenya. I think technologically we are ready, except that we lose a lot of our know-how to other countries. And that's a big challenge. It's called brain drain. A lot of us have done research in high-tech, and most of what we're talking about is chip-made gadgets. And I do believe that deliberate efforts, especially in development of our science technology parks in Africa, would enhance the gap that exists between developed countries and Africa. That's one. Two, there is complacency. I think there is not enough support, in institutional support for the universities and training institutions which could grow knowledge to direct the growth of technology. It should be deliberate for all governments or within regions that we identify specific areas. Like in Kenya, I think we did identify what we'd call the Konza City to be the center where we could develop some of these gadgets that we require. And that relates also to maintenance of the equipment. There are lots of challenges. We buy equipment and, for example, medical equipment, and we cannot maintain them. That relates to sustainability. We cannot sustain the use of the equipment that we have in the ICT sector. Relating to the institutional readiness, here we have the ministers, and I will not hesitate to say this, that when one minister quits or is transferred, he does not hand over adequately to the next minister. And why is that? In my thinking is because this sector is very lucrative. There's a lot of money in ICT. If one takes telecoms and electronics alone, you can see the fight between the players, and that is more so because in the emptiness that we are in, the vendors are competing very heavily, and therefore that gives a loophole. And that loophole is leading to corruption. And I have to mention this very emphatically. We must be very careful that although we cry that we don't have money, we have enough resources which could drive ICT, but leadership needs to be deliberate and focused and committed to this particular sector. And I do believe that here we have our ministers. I wish we could have more. This is an issue which should be addressed. We may reduce corruption by use of ICT, but then garbage in, garbage out. It depends on our know-how. So I am talking about this deliberately and humbly, that we need to address some of these loopholes that we have and change the mindsets. We have to change our mindsets. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Robert, and thank you for being forthright and raising some challenging issues. You moved the conversation on a little bit to the institutional readiness, but would anyone else like to make any comments about technological readiness? Maybe on the last point of the question there. What are the technologies mainly used by governments at present? Web-based technologies, mobile technologies, Internet of Things? What are the core technologies that dominate here in Africa? Mobile. And yet, a lot of emphasis is being placed on the development of government websites. I'm tempted, some people mentioned government websites before. Again, being a little bit naughty, I'm tempted that the CTO should have a competition for the best government website in the Commonwealth, because most Commonwealth citizens I know think their government websites are dreadful. And that's maybe an interesting thing. How accessible are government websites to mobile devices? Who designs these websites? I don't want to put any minister on a difficult question here, but how many, can anyone name a really good government website that is usable, user-friendly on a mobile device? Somebody please stand up. maybe tea and coffee. Tea. Yes.
There's something very, very provocative which I think we can't live without responding to as political leaders. This is the usage of ICT and fighting corruption. Well, it's true. Usage of ICT because of the electronic trail, corruption, you make fighting corruption easier because every e-transaction leaves a trail that sometimes you may not be able, and mark my words, you may not be able to erase. But corruption is not a technological issue. See, there's technology and corruption. The mindset of our people, the young people whom we are recruiting in government with all their skills in IT, if they went with the wrong attitude they have, the corrupt mind, with ICT, if they have been taking $1 million, they'll take $1 billion. I'll give you an example. In Uganda, we had a problem. We have an integrated financial management system, IFMS. All of us at one time thought that this was robust, nobody can compromise it. The day these young people disabled it, by the time we found out, wow, it was terrible. The good thing, yes, we are able, because the trails were there, to get everybody and close the gaps. But what they were doing with the integrated financial management system, and I hope there are quite a number of countries who are using this. If you have been complacent saying that since you have that system, then you are going to stop corruption, just come and ask us what happened to us. When you go to this e-tax system, when those young people penetrate those systems, disable them, they can really take millions and millions out of them. You ask the banks, what the banks in all the countries now, what they are doing with e-money, mobile money, e-pesa. We have operators in my country crying. People have really taken a lot of money from them. So corruption, yes, ICT, we can use it to fight corruption because of the electronic trail, which sometimes is indelible, but corruption mainly is a mindset issue which we should fight at another front. If we say that ICT, usage of ICT is going to be the panacea for corruption, then we may get it wrong. We must fight corruption at another front, the software, the spiritual, the attitude of our people and other issues. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much indeed for that reminder. In view of the time, what I'm actually going to do now, I want you all to be energetic and because we'll address some of these questions, and let's just use show of hands, because I know that Vincenzo and Elida do want some feedback on some of these issues. So I'm particularly interested in this question. Do African public institutions have the capacities in managing technological change and innovation in public policy formulation and implementation? So hands up those who think they do, and then we'll have hands up on those who think they don't. So the question again to think about, do African public institutions have the capacities in managing technological change and innovation in public policy formulation and implementation? So is that a question or comment? So the question is, could we have a show of hands, those who believe that African public institutions do have that capacity? Okay, some up. Those who don't think they have the capacity? I think that's about 50-50, but an awful lot of unsures there. Okay, let's look. We need to be more forthright. We need to be more forthright. What about open government approaches? Any thoughts? And I'll change the question a little bit. Are your governments adopting what you would call open government approaches, or insufficiently? Those who think open government approaches are really being championed by your governments. Hands up in favour.
May I just interject for one second? can we hear from those? I mean, I raised my hand.
Yep.
Among those who think we have the capacities, but I saw people, a big portion, 50%, saying we don't have the capacity.
Yeah.
Can we hear at least one from each side?
We're already running 5 minutes over. I mean, I think those conversations are going to be tough, sorry, in favor of the next people. Phil, I'm going to be tough. And this is just a quick insight. And this is a conversation that we continue over the next 2 days. So please forgive me. What about open government? Those who think we do have open government? Vincenzo, do you want to just quickly summarize what you mean, or Elida, what you mean by open government here? Elida.
It is a very good point, actually, because there are conception and misconception about open government. It is a new stage in development from what we've noted. It's happening very fast for everyone to put a proper definition on that. Has been made possible due to technological revolution, because the databases are there and they can be interconnected. But the desire of the stakeholder to participate and receive the data has been there for a long time, and Africa has a history of public sector interaction with other stakeholders based on whatever data is available. The reason that the question is imposed in such a way, do the institution have the required capacity to manage public service delivery, and then public policies linked with open data. The public service delivery is something that the government can do themselves by designing policies and providing the output. And we've seen quite a lot of exhibition of best practices as smart cards and others. But when it comes to the public, the capacities of the public institution to solicit ideas on the public policy, that's where the data is key. The data so far has been a prerogative of only public institutions. The latest movement due to technology has opened the data to other stakeholders to come up and provide alternative public policies to public institutions. The question that we are facing is, are the public institutions ready in terms of the mindset, in terms of the attitude, to absorb this continuous feedback that they are receiving from business community, from the citizens, on what needs to be done, how public policies need to be conceptualized in such a way to address the needs of 19th, 20th, and 21st century. And the data is there, but the data needs also to be used by all stakeholders and needs a transformation for the public sector. And if allowed, I'm sorry, taking a little bit more time, I would second what the Minister of Uganda mentioned. The technology might be there, and not incidentally, we have put technology with the institution. The technology might be there, but in the last 15 years, we have seen that it's the mindset of the institution that make technology work. We've seen the most comprehensive IT solution being bought and used with 20% capacities, especially if they are income generation, customs, taxation authorities. We've seen the interruption because the mindset has been as such that it's the youth that know how technology, and youth can be, like everyone else, corrupted. They might interrupt the system and find trick ways not to have it work. That's why no matter what technological revolution brings, no matter how much resources are placed to adopt them, if the institutions are not capable, not delivering, but managing all the processes, the IT is not going to produce what it's foreseen for. And many of the resources might be wasted. And while many countries might afford that, Africa can't. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elida. Ladies and gentlemen, we are running very over time. The next session will be starting at about 20 past 12. I would like us back in here by then. We have to have a photograph, and Robert will guide us on where the photograph will be taken, and then refreshments. It is a great pity that we have to draw to a conclusion. Okay, the photograph will take place at the back of the room, so that's very easy and will make things quicker. But ladies and gentlemen, we've had some very, very interesting observations. We've begun to get very frank and open on issues such as corruption. May I close the session by addressing one aspect of the final question on sustainable development. There is a real challenge out there. Is the technology we're using itself actually sustainable? How often do you get a new smartphone? How often does the software change? So you need a bit of hardware. What about technology dumping? And there is always this implicit assumption that these technologies are actually going to enable greater sustainability. And I will just leave at the end of this discussion the thought in your mind, well, how sustainable are we being in using this technology? What about the number of air conditioners needed to maintain our data plants? What about the expense on electricity? What are we doing to ensure that we have sustainable energy solutions to support our technologies? Ladies and gentlemen, we've had distinguished speakers, we've had a rich food for thought as we take forward the discussions. Elida and Vincenzo very much want to have your feedback on these questions. So I would beg you to find the opportunity over the next 2 days to take them aside, to share your insights on these 3 questions. And we are very grateful for the collaboration with the UNDESA for bringing their thoughts here for us to take forward. So please join me in thanking our distinguished speakers. And without any more ado, could I invite the panel to go to the chairs at the back of the room so they don't have to stand while the crowd then joins around them. So if we could move quickly to the photograph, and we will then, when that is finished, have about 15 minutes for refreshments, which are here, and please be back in the room at the very latest by 12:20. Thank you very much indeed.